Okay, we're back.
Okay, Commissioners, this is the work session. You know, we have the legislative breakfast coming up. My understanding is all but one of our representatives, the last time I spoke with the clerk, all but one of the representatives have responded that they would be able to.
Who was that?
I believe it was Representative Needley had not responded.
Okay.
Not that he couldn't attend, but that he just hadn't had a chance to respond.
Okay.
So all the other ones had responded, and they with the intention that they are going to attend. So nobody backed out, so we should have good participation, hopefully.
What day is that going to be on?
I got it on my calendar.
It's Thursday, the
4th?
Oh, yeah, we need to get that.
7th?
Wait just a second, I can tell you.
It's the day after. I'll have to look it up.
I can tell you just a second.
In November?
11th?
The 9th, would it be?
I think it's the 9th. I just want
The Thursday around the 9th?
to confirm that.
No, it's the 16th, isn't it?
There you go.
16th?
Uh-huh. Council on Aging, right?
Yep.
Yep.
Okay.
You got it on there? Okay.
Oh, it's the 16th?
Yeah.
8:30?
Yeah.
What the heck's the 9th? Oh, I got something else.
I had some on the 9th too. So it
I
must
got
be the
something on
same
my
thing.
calendar that day.
Well, with that, I know obviously we have a few topics that we would like to discuss. You have the letter that the commission had asked the county councilor to prepare for, I think actually Representative Tim Johnson had asked for this. So we have that prepared. Just wanted to show it to you, getting feedback before we would put it on letterhead and get it to Representative Johnson. And with that, I think some of the usual characters I kind of wrote down. I'll go through them. If you guys agree or disagree, you can let me know. And if there's any you'd like to add. Obviously, I think the LAVTR support has to be number one. We bring it up quite a bit. So I thought that would probably be
Number one.
one of the items. The letter that's in the packet, I think, is an item that we should probably bring up, even though we're saying it to Representative Johnson. And then the last two that I have kind of tie together, but the constitutional amendment, property taxes, and then the unfunded mandates. I think it's one we've kind of discussed, but it hasn't been one that the board had said specifically that they wanted to address it. And it ties kind of into the other one that I have on here, which is the veterans property tax abatement. And rather than just, I guess, focus on just that specific item, it's really the unfunded mandates that the state continues to send down that creates a problem. So I thought maybe the unfunded mandate would be the topic rather than just specifically call out this veterans abatement thing, that we would call out unfunded mandates in general. So
But that could turn into an unfunded mandate.
It is an unfunded mandate as presented.
Well, if it was done through the Homestead Act.
Yeah.
Well, I think we should make it very clear that we want it done through the Homestead Act rather than through local property
And that
tax.
it can't be, and that you can't separate it out and say and it's a separate group. Veterans have are treated differently than the elderly or the other disabled population, that it's a separate category. It's just because I don't want it to be to where it gets to be that
Well, if it's
it doesn't
Homestead,
but
would it be
it
the
homestead,
same?
but they can say that there's no, on this group, there's no cap on the property value.
Well,
Yeah.
that
You know,
can't
I
be
don't
on
think-
Homestead, though. If it's under the Homestead.
Well, they can amend the
They
Homestead
can
Act.
amend-
They already did amend the Homestead Act, actually, but I think that there's a lot wrong with that legislation. We've discussed it a lot.
Ad nauseam.
I don't see how you can give anybody a tax abatement without some kind of an income-based limit
Right.
or
That's-
a property-based limit, because I don't, just personally me, I don't believe that we should ask other taxpayers to pick up the tax bill for somebody who's making a six-figure income,
Right.
living in a $700,000 home.
Exactly.
That does not seem right. It doesn't seem fair or equitable, even though I respect the fact that they served and are veterans and they deserve our respect. That doesn't mean that other people should have to pick up their tax bill. They still use the same services. And that's our point. That's been our point.
Right.
But really what it comes back to again is, even if they fund it, it's bad legislation. But what we're most concerned about is the unfunded portion of that, what it does to local taxing entities, And what this Topeka legislators continue to do is push down these unfunded mandates. And when we did the budget, I had the slide that represented how much of our budget is actually Topeka's budget that they just make us fund locally at their direction.
Right.
And they continue to do it. So I think that would be one, is maybe talk about unfunded mandates and just, that's the constitutional amendment we probably need, because we know they won't hold themselves to it even if they make it a law, but it's one that I think is important.
Can we have, I agree with the unfunded mandates, but could we write a letter delineating what the unfunded mandates are, at least the ones we can think of?
Jeff has those.
And
I mean, we have
Yeah.
that.
I thought we
well, I mean, I
I
think what they want is, because when I talk to different ones of them, they say, "Well, what is that?"
Because
And
they
they want
want
it
here.
specific, like here,
We can do that.
here, because there are a lot of them.
Yes, they are.
I was here when a lot of it happened.
But I think I agree with
Commissioner
putting.
Culberson would have been also.
But we can definitely
No, we
provide a
can-
list.
Mr. Mike Smith had to deal with it.
Right.
Yes, sir.
Absolutely, we can do that.
More than one.
Because that's what I've heard a lot of legislators say. Well,
What does that mean?
there's not really.
Yeah, over
You guys-
It was
30%.
devastating when they happened.
Over 30% of our budget is state unfunded mandates.
Right.
So
Put it on
we're going through
paper.
the budget process.
Put it on paper.
But we have to show them. We can't just tell them.
Right.
Right.
We're not in
We
the
need-
show me
right,
state, but,
okay.
Again, not even.
They're all to work.
I don't know that we're asking them to undo what they've already done, which would be nice. But I think what I'm saying is
Just
our
stop
point
doing
is
it.
Stop doing it. Stop pushing. And what was proposed in the veterans bill
Stop blaming us.
is an example of an unfunded mandate. Even though in their mind maybe it isn't, when you are taking local taxpayers off the tax rolls, that is an unfunded mandate.
And turning us
You want
into
us to be the
enemies
ones
of the state.
rebating what you're.
Yeah.
If you want to buy votes, use your own money, I guess is what we're trying to say.
I don't know if I can say it like that, but yeah.
And turning us
That's
into
about as
enemies of
accurate
the
as you can
state.
get it.
So I'll put together a specific list of the ones
That'd be
that
great.
we have
But
already
you've
on
done it
file.
already.
I have the slide, the spreadsheet that I generated to use to create the slide.
Yeah.
budgets.
Because over the last couple of years, not one state representative that I've talked to understood what a state unfunded mandate was for the county. They didn't even think past what this repercussions are to the local taxpayers for these state unfunded mandates.
And,
So
business machinery, wasn't they going to fund that for 10 years till the counties kind of transitioned into it and they funded it for 6
Yeah,
months?
Yeah.
right. They didn't
Yeah.
even go
That
through the
was
full year.
devastating.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When we meet
That
with
was a
them,
mid-year adjustment.
can we also tell them or give them an information sheet on Cushing explaining we spent X amount, we did not spend $12 million, so they know exactly what we've done at Cushing, because Cushing's a really positive thing. It should not be criticized.
Yeah,
It's
it's
a really,
Did you look at the new parking lot yet?
I've driven by.
Driven by it, yeah. One of those two, Mark, before we go on that, one of the things I'd like to see that we just remind them, with our transportation study that went through, in K5 and down the south area, portion of the south, really ranking high, especially after the meeting they had. I'd sure like to see them help us with this and not just sit back on the sidelines with it when it comes down.
And I think that one of the things I'd like to see, or just have discussions with them, because then I'm going to go on my little thing because of the transportation and transit, is that ask for them to help kind of advocate for increased funding for transit. Because, we have no transit system in the city of Leavenworth. And I know that the cities can take care of it, the county can help, but if the state would kind of step up a little bit more of their game a little more, maybe combining all of those things, we might be able to get that type of service.
And this part of the state
And
is
this-
the only where you're going to get it.
Right, I'm just,
Commissioners, one, I would like to point out that we do have transit. The Council on Aging provides
Right,
transit
I
for
just
a lot
meant-
of people. The city now has a transit system that I believe is very effective and very successful so far. In the past, the Guidance Center has assisted with transit. So there are transportation items out there that have been funded locally, and I think that increasing transit spending is important for the metropolitan area specifically. But there is a transit that exists already. I don't want to.
Right, no, I'm just saying, but I think that but to have it to where it's connecting people that
It needs to grow.
It needs to grow, and it needs to be available. It's kind of like there's like workforce things to get people in here to work. Getting people
For the Panasonic?
for the Panasonic. I'm just saying, getting people out to be able to work. I mean, the workforce aspects of it, because when we have transit that is only allowed for 8 a.m. to 4 p.m., we kind of limit that. When we limit distances, sometimes there's more important, and I know that I've argued both sides of the coin of it brings people out, and it takes people out of the community as much as it does brings it in. However, I think that just to have something that starts and gets people to be able to get to visit their loved ones if they're in the hospital and they can't go see somebody that's in the hospital.
I think Vicki,
just-
I think Vicki's got a good point. Also, when I was back in Lansing, I talked to a lot. We brought in all those restaurants. We put New Middle Lane, Popeyes, and a few others. They had people coming from Wyandotte County to work because nobody's there. But then they'd only stay 3 or 4 months because they could not afford to have a vehicle or drive. If there's any way, I know Leavenworth County, or Leavenworth at one time, correct me if I'm wrong, folks, what Leavenworth's doing now, we were going to look at kind of growing that as we go by. Say, we're going to start at Leavenworth, and we come and we get with Lansing, and then we connect the other areas where it's needed. Because getting people to their job, besides, as Vicki said, health department, stuff like that, is kind of important. I mean, I know we can't do this all, but I think just to keep that in front of them helps everybody.
That's why I said I'm just keeping it there. That there's.
I think that one of the challenges, though, that you face for transit spending is that it's the same kind of argument that we make on other things, and that is when the transit system is going to be very specific to the community. It's not Kansas Transit. It's the Kansas City Area Transit Authority that's there. So when you're talking about Topeka, their funding is a statewide funding source. So when you ask specifically for transit, that is then taking funds from Western Kansas to assist with transportation in this area. So that's why it's typically done in a regional approach versus a statewide. But I definitely think we should be encouraged.
And I understand that,
to
but
put more money into
Mark,
it.
I
I
heard we
think
had
to
a
some
surplus.
extent, though, I think that if we can if they begin to allow, not always have it for, that they allow part of the funding to be used to pay wages for people who are working for those
They have transportation
organizations.
funds that don't get used each year, and I think that one of the things that we've talked about is that they need to change the flexibility.
Right, that's what I'm saying, the flexibility of the
If you have the
funding.
grant money and you tie it to these two programs,
Right.
one program gets utilized and the other one isn't, maybe you should change that.
That's what I'm
process.
saying, is looking at the formulas and saying, okay, it doesn't all have to be spent on operations that it can, that you can spend it on personnel. And that's often, because with federal funds, it's kind of easy to get the funding for buses or vans or microtransit or e-buses or e-transportation. That's kind of coming, but to
That's
pay the
probably where
people
funding
to
would
operate,
be available for
Right.
the e-buses.
but to pay the people to operate those things or the mechanics to work on them and all those things, that's where the funding isn't. And to be able to shift some of those funds over to where it's allowable spending. That's
And we
what
have a
I'm-
letter that we put out, the commissioner supporting rail infrastructure and passenger rail, and then that would connect really easily in with transit, and that is a regional thing
Right.
that we
Which
need
is-
the legislators to work on. So I think all that
Multimodal.
tied together should be something they could help with, and on top of that, they could help us with getting infrastructure money for the Panasonic.
Right, it's multimodal type.
Right. So I don't know how you tie all those together, but I think they all should be tied together.
Yeah,
Not a major part of our platform of what we want
Just
to talk
bringing
to
it up.
legislators. Just bringing it up is
Yeah.
something that they need to kind of consider.
Yep.
But a little help on some of these things could really.
I'd like to see-
if they work
I'd like to see
together,
that.
they could move a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
on this area of the state?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Especially if we're like
This is
the
what's
top 5
going
growing county.
Yep.
Other counties are losing population.
That's a list.
I think,
I
I
think
don't think
enough.
we need, we're only going to have, what, an hour or two with them? And then
This
How
this
carried
is a
away do you want
really,
to get on this state unfunded mandate thing?
get carried
Because
away, definitely.
because really the appraiser's office is a state unfunded mandate. The county wouldn't even have an appraiser's office if it wasn't for the state putting the property
There's a
tax
long
solution.
list.
Yeah, yeah.
and we
so,
don't even regulate.
No, we
them.
need to point out, all of those things need to be pointed out.
yeah.
They need a hard copy in front of them, Jeff.
The
That's when they
GIS
come in.
mapper is a state unfunded
Right, they
mandate.
need to realize
There's
that
a statute.
we pay for the taxpayers of Leavenworth County.
Yeah, there's a specific statute just for the GIS mapper in each county. I mean, there's a long list of state unfunded mandates.
Commissioners, my budget alone has over $250,000 annually in it on unfunded mandates regarding your requirement to
Coroner.
appoint court-appointed attorneys. And they're not primary attorneys. For example, they several years ago amended the code on juvenile and child in need of care to where more or less every family member is
Right.
entitled to their own attorney. So rather than having 1 or 2 attorneys on a case, there might be 6 to 7. And that's a mandate. But you do have quite a list, and you're asking quite a bit of your legislators. So I would suggest to you add to your list the point that Commissioner Mike Smith brought up, and you should encourage them to increase their own salaries. And I think they'll be happy to hear that.
And y'all know the reason I do that, because I think it's a bigger pool. It's a bigger pool instead of the same people.
I think that's their business. If they want to increase their salary.
No,
that's
I
their
don't think so, Mike. You get the same people running. And never, it's like throwing a ball against that wall.
I'm not sure that should be on our legislative agenda.
It should be at least mentioned to them how we see this. They're putting it out there. One of them's putting it out there on his little list that he's against it. Well, I'm telling you, you're an elected official. I'm telling you, you should have other people able
Mike,
to do
I
that.
agree with you that we pay our
these
people low
certain
salaries.
legislators are putting their opinion into our wheelhouses in local.
But if you
I'm
really
sorry.
want to put it on there, that's fine.
I'm just saying.
Well, I'm just saying,
certain
honestly,
elected
I don't.
But I just,
Legislators are
I don't care if you
actually
bring-
entering into the arena of local governing. So why shouldn't local governing bodies?
Well, it's obvious that we don't have a
express their
consensus on it.
opinions
There was a home rule.
It's obvious we don't have a
Just
consensus
say,
on it.
you
So,
know,
Mark,
I thought we had home rule, Becky.
if you don't want to put it on, you don't have to. It's obvious we don't have a consensus on it. But I'm going to keep preaching
We
this.
do have a consensus.
Do we? Because I'm going to preach on this because that enables everybody, unknown citizens, to run for office where they can still do it and still make it. 40,000 is nothing in this day and age, and they're going to earn that. But if you pay 20,000, you're going to get a select group of people that are able to run for office, and that's just not right.
and I
That's
agree
my
with you.
story, and I'm
And you'd
sticking
be a great
to
preacher,
it.
Mike.
So that wouldn't be minimum wage?
Yeah, I know.
And I don't know what the
Not the
consensus
It's even
on
more
it
than
is.
that.
I agree with
Not the
paying
current
them more, but also agree with term limits. So
That's the
right.
next step.
They're hand in hand.
That's the next step down the line.
No, I'm not sure that this is an issue that we would want to add, but it is an issue I wanted to bring up. There's a bill in Topeka that would allow it would allow local governments to regulate and restrict abortion or to provide for cleanliness in clinics, etc. The abortion rate in Kansas in the last year has gone up 114%. And I think I personally am going to express to the legislators that there needs to be some concern for what's happening,
And this happened because value in both failed.
probably because of Roe versus Wade.
Well, but also value in both failed.
Right. Well, the regulation part, and this would just allow cleanliness regulations and whatever local regulations.
But I think the health department already has those authorities, don't they?
Well, there's a law in place that says that no political subdivision of the state shall regulate or restrict abortion. So that would take that out, and it would allow the local governments to have some regulations.
Aren't they doing that anyway? Aren't they working on that?
This is just a bill that's up there right now.
Yeah.
So I was saying we should support it.
Oh, okay.
If we're going to support legislative pay, we might as well support this.
I don't think it's legislators pay I'm supporting. I think it's getting more people in the arena, but I'm supporting Mike.
Oh, I agree, but I agree with you, Mike, on that.
All of our locals support this, though, right?
I don't know. I just think that we let them know that we're
Okay,
we're
I thought
supporting.
they all supported it.
I don't know if they've been approached about it. Probably a couple of them know where they stand.
Well, we got a ton on there, so whatever. If that's too much, I'm fine with it. But y'all know where I stand on that one issue, because we got a lot of important things. But they're responsible. If they show up, which I hope they will, this is the one time we get to look at them and say these are things we want done. Give us a yes or no. How do you support it? I don't know if they will, but it's better. The last couple of times we've invited them, we've had one person show up. And the legislators have to come meet us halfway. We are not the enemy.
To make
I
the
just
menu
think
better.
we need to stick with what actually impacts us versus what impacts so
Stay in our wheelhouse.
if we want them to stay in their wheelhouse, we need to stay in ours. And so I think that what they decide on how they, if they are silly enough to think that after a while people aren't going to get tired of who is being elected to represent them, they're sorely mistaken. And I think that we need to stick with what.
Okay, I guess, Vicki, are you saying stay out of? You're saying stay out of the one with the legislative pay?
Yes.
I don't have a problem with that. I wanted to get it said to people.
You said it in the meeting today, and that was.
I said it to the pay because I'm telling you.
So are you also saying stay out of the?
Yes, I'm saying what we need to do is we need to stick with what we're doing with our local ad valorem, what we're talking with
Water district.
the water district things, the things that actually
I have no problem because I'm going to continue harping on it no matter where
you
I'm
can
at.
harp on it till you.
I'm going to, Madam Chair, because that is one thing we need to be doing. You get the same people in office and they bring back these mandates. Get in office.
And I'll harp, and I'll
Harp all you want.
I'll harp too, but
I'm
just
still gonna harp.
But what we have a full. I want to have good discussion on a more narrow thing. I don't want to get off in the weeds, which we can tend to do. Lord knows that I want to stick with what we have on that narrow agenda that we want to bring to them in the short amount of time we have, that we can have the most impact in the conversations. And if we need to take transit off, I can take that off even.
I don't think that should come off.
But I'm saying I am more than willing to.
I don't know. We got too many. Maybe we should take that off.
Unfunded mandates, LAVTR, and
The constitutional amendment.
Yes,
And back to
those are absolutely.
and back to transportation.
Because those
back to transportation
absolutely
funding.
impact our ability to do our jobs.
Start crossing, Mark.
If we had all day, I agree. But
We don't have all day, is what I'm saying.
And Mike, we can personally visit with them about these.
Yeah.
Right.
I agree.
I just want to be able to hone in and focus on what we can really, really get done in that short amount of time that truly, truly impact our ability to do our jobs every.
Well, LAVTR, unfunded mandates,
Yes.
and bidding on road projects that got utilities to move.
Exactly.
Because that seems to be.
And I
So-
think, and
so
we have,
Mark,
and
what do
we
you
have a
have on your-
legislator that's championing us, and we need to make sure that we recognize that we thank him, that we show that,
Supports.
yes,
You have Mark read what we got.
yes.
We have
What do we got?
Are you sure?
Yeah.
I think I've kept track pretty good. So, LAVTR, the constitutional amendment, unfunded mandates, which could probably include a few other things, and then the moving utilities to water.
Yes.
The constitutional.
And what about the infrastructure and the?
Well, you had to, well,
If time
that one
allows.
bill is under the.
Yeah, but it's
unfunded
important.
mandates,
It's
correct?
important, but if
I
time
thought
allows.
I thought that the transportation infrastructure thing was coming off because we wanted to focus on those.
That's why I said.
I think we should leave
But
that.
what were you
on.
considering the unfunded mandate? You talking about the Homestead Act?
Any of those things.
Okay,
But
that
one, we
would
want to
be
hit. We
good.
want to hit on unfunded
All right.
mandates. But here's an example.
Okay, so you still got that on your list?
Yes.
Okay.
The constitutional amendment is the 4%.
Right.
Okay.
But I think the infrastructure part should stay on because we really need their help at the Panasonic and with the Department of Commerce. I think they're going to be critical, and they can help with this transportation issue.
Well, I understand, but I
They-
think.
I don't think so. We took a bunch of them off that they could help with too, so let's
I'm
go
just
back to
saying,
the basic
We'll go back
ones.
to the basic ones, and then if time allows, if we get through everything and then there's like a
Well,
dead silence and
Oh,
there's
well,
nothing
no,
else
there
to
won't
talk
be a
about,
dead
It's called a
silence.
I don't think
They're
there
all
will.
up.
No, I'm saying, I don't think there will, but we can pair up and go to Topeka and start talking to those things and start talking, like privately, like we just said, with some of these other topics and issues that we feel strongly about.
And I think we're going to have to
Individually.
do that.
Right, that we can do
There's going to have
that.
to be some committees that we're probably going to have to testify.
Right, and that's some of the things that we can do and get some testimony on transportation and,
Again.
But
Yeah,
I think that
right.
we need to not overfill our plates.
Just have it down.
Because then we
Now it's
lose them, we lose our impact if we sound like we're just like all over the place. Instead, we are
And I think we should
laser focused.
have a really nice meal. Maybe the legislators would be
I think
attracted to
I
a
picked
really
up a
nice
box of
meal.
Lucky Charms.
They're magically delicious.
Skimmed milk and Lucky Charms. That's-
There's some Skittles in
Well,
there.
if we let them know that we're having a nice meal, they will come. That's what they do in Topeka. They
all help
have
us
all
breakfast.
these events where they have.
We don't have any lobbyists doing this.
whiskey
Well,
and
that's-
cigars.
You know, one thing though, even though I'm in agreement, breaking it down like we did, it just shows, even though we've had a heated discussion, it just shows how many issues we have on our plate.
But we've had the fun.
And we have to limit it to so many so we can get these things across that are being thrown at us on a regular basis.
But it is what it is. And I thank you for getting it organized. And I think we're probably,
Thank David for that letter, because I think it.
Yes.
I read through it.
it's a good letter.
Commissioners, actually, while sitting here and some other matters, very untimely, I would like to suggest that I be allowed to redraft this letter and the proposed legislation to limit the requirement for competitive bidding by rural water districts set up under Section 82A to instances where their relocation is necessitated by a road project funded either by a county or a state, or county or the state. And that way, other than those instances, they'd be
They
able
don't
to
have to do anything.
they don't have to, there'd be no change. But in instances where the relocation is required due to public road projects, either by the state or a county, that the relocation costs be done through a competitive bidding process.
And that would probably make it have a greater opportunity to pass.
It narrows it significantly. And I apologize for not having thought of that before, but it just kind of,
Revelation.
That works.
it does occur.
Yeah.
Works for me.
Is that good for you?
I'm not
I'll
trying to
work
rush
on, I'll have
everything. I
that
a meeting
prepared
to
before
get
the
to.
end of the day.
I'm good.
Oh, my goodness.
What'd you say now?
I said I'm not trying to rush everything, but I've got a
Oh.
meeting to get zoomed on
She's
to.
not trying to, but she
Well, I've
is.
had enough of you guys, so I'm ready to go.
Motion to adjourn.
We're in a work session,
Motion
aren't
to
we?
adjourn. Do I have a second?
Second.
Are we in a work session? Do we have to?
Yeah.
Okay.
Thanks.